if we can do it right this time. Welcome to Intellectual Kung Fu, the place where you learn to kick the shit out of illogical arguments and the irrational claims they attempt to support. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Debates happen everywhere and they can usually last a while. But just like a good fighter, if you know what you're doing, it usually tends to end pretty quickly. That's assuming in all cases if both parties are rationally conversing. My name is Jason Jewell, and today we're going to talk about something fairly easy, but it's constantly overlooked. First, tell me if you've ever taken part in a debate that's looked or sounded like this. Chiropractic therapy really does work. I'm not really convinced it does. Well, can you prove it doesn't? Well, can you prove it does? I asked if you could prove it doesn't. You have to prove it does. Otherwise, I would be forced to prove it doesn't. Otherwise, I would be forced to prove it doesn't. I will prove it doesn't. Okay, so this back and forth, it happens all the time. Fortunately, there's one hell of a solution for it. It's a rule in propositional logic, and it's called the burden of proof. Let's go. The burden of proof simply states that whoever is making the claim has the responsibility of demonstrating the truth of said claim. If your opponent is the one making the claim, it's their responsibility to prove said claim true. It's not your responsibility to prove that claim false, and vice versa. However, if you're both making a claim, same thing. You have to prove the claim that you're making, and he or she has to prove the claim that they're making.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
When you make a claim and expect someone else to prove it false, this is the fallacious act known as shifting the burden of proof. So anybody making a claim has the responsibility to prove that claim, and expecting someone else to prove it wrong is an attempt to shift the burden of proof. It seems obvious, right? But it's not. We're not all Donald Trump. However, just defining the burden of proof doesn't really get us anywhere. It doesn't give us any explanation that we can use. It doesn't tell us why it's important, why it's not only important, but why it's completely necessary. It's because I said so. I'm just kidding. The burden of proof isn't some random lawmaker's decision. This is something that you could not avoid even if you tried. And if you tried, a fallacy is something you wouldn't be able to avoid. Why? Well, the short answer is you can't prove a negative. You can't demonstrate the non-existence of something. Simply put, you can't prove a claim to be false. What? Yeah, I know, that's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? Because it seems like you really can prove a claim to be false, doesn't it? But can you? To better understand the burden of proof, let's remove it from a court trial. Now, if you ever went on trial for, like, murder or something, you probably wouldn't notice it if it was there, but if they took it away, you would notice it immediately. What would happen if we got rid of the burden of proof? What if we just threw it away? What if the legal system was done away with the burden of proof forever? What would happen? Well, when you're accused of a crime and you're taken into court, it's your job to demonstrate your innocence, right? Wrong. Nope. Incorrect. A court is not designed to evaluate innocence, only to address matters of guilt. It's not your job to demonstrate your innocence. You're already presumed innocent before the trial even begins.
No shit, Sherlock!
Your only job is to address the specific matters of guilt. That's why the outcome of any given court case is either guilty or not guilty, and not innocent or guilty. However, in this topsy-turvy world of inconsistency and irrationality, we're going to do away with the burden of proof completely and see what the world would be like if you were accused of murder. Or if I was accused of murder, for that matter, again. So, you've been taken to court, you've been accused of murder, and let's say, for the sake of the argument, that you are innocent, and they do have enough coincidental evidence to take you to court. However, instead of the prosecution having to demonstrate their accusation to be true, you're going to have to prove their claim to be false. So, go ahead. You're in court, you've been accused of murder, and you have to prove your innocence. You have to prove that you have not murdered anyone. Go ahead. I won't wait.
Your Honor, I object!
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case!
Because you can't do it. You're not going to be able to. At least not directly. You would simply have to have evidence of innocence of every second of your life. At 35 years old, this is 306,600 hours of video. But what if you were given a specific claim, a specific accusation to address? You murdered a 29-year-old female 3 weeks ago in Ohio on a Monday at 6 p.m. Now, prove you didn't.
I thought we can't prove claims to be false.
Because you can't. Instead, you prove that it was true that you were in Chicago 3 weeks ago on a Monday at 6 p.m. So if you prove your assertion to be true, by consequence, you have demonstrated theirs to be false. However, that's kind of a loose example. Trials are very complex, and the rules of a courtroom are even more complex. I mean, there must be some way to directly prove a claim to be false, not without having to prove something true as well. Some claims are just so nonsensical that it just seems clear, easy, and obvious, doesn't it? Reindeer. Reindeer can't fly. That seems easy. It seems like you would be able to prove that pretty simply without having to prove something else true. So what would you do? You'd probably take about 10 reindeer to the top of the very tallest building that you could find. And then, with a little bit of grace, you'd shove them off. And upon hitting the ground and creating a horrific pile of holiday horror, you might look at yourself and think to yourself, I did good. But did you do good? Sure, you killed a bunch of reindeer, but did you prove that reindeer can't fly? I'm afraid not. In order to do that, you would have to literally investigate every single reindeer on the planet, prove that you investigated every reindeer on the planet, then demonstrate there are no other reindeer in the entire universe. Well, what you really did was demonstrate that those 10 reindeer either can't, or for some suicidal reason, chose not to fly. So no, technically you and no one else proved that reindeer can't fly.
So you think reindeer can fly?
What? No, of course not. In fact, I'm pretty convinced that reindeer can't fly. It's not because someone proved to me that reindeer cannot fly. I know how gravity works. I know how physics works. I understand how lift is created with acceleration. I understand biology. I understand the basic biological structure of a mammal, such as a reindeer. And according to Batman, bats are the only mammals that can fly. And I'm not going to argue with Batman.
I'm Batman.
It's because of those facts that I know to be true that demonstrate the possibility of reindeer flying as not true. But I suppose if you wanted to get real technical, you could just show me an empty bowl of cat food. Bam! Here we go. Checkmate.
Checkmate. Checkmate.
I beat logic. Well, I hate to break up this celebration between me and, well, me, but you didn't prove that there was no cat food in the bowl. If you prove to me that there's no cat food in the bowl, then that's what you would prove to me. That would be the information I would have. There's no cat food in the bowl. I wouldn't know if there was ice cream in it. I wouldn't know if there was candy in it, money in it, change, grass. You wouldn't know. All you would know is there's no cat food in the bowl. That would be the negative that was proven. However, if someone shows you an empty bowl, they're proving the positive claim that this bowl is empty. Everything that now can go inside the bowl becomes a subset of what could be in the bowl, but is not, including cat food. So this is what we mean when we say you can't prove a negative. You can't demonstrate the non-existence of something. You can only show something to be false as a consequence of demonstrating the truth of its logical negation. Demonstrating the non-existence of something is especially difficult because what is the logical negation of something? It would be nothing. And what is that? Really, we have no idea. We don't know what a nothing is. We don't have a nothing to investigate. So what I want you to leave with is 3 things. The burden of proof, which states that everyone who makes a claim has the responsibility of demonstrating their claim to be true. Shifting the burden of proof is making a claim and expecting someone else to prove it wrong. Also, you can't demonstrate a negative. There's just no way around it.
Well, I'll be damned.
My name is Jason Jewell. Thank you so much for watching Intellectual Kung Fu, the place where you learn to kick the shit out of illogical arguments and the irrational claims they attempt to support.